Hello guys, how are you all? Welcome to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Naruto creates chidori, part 2, subscribe if you enjoy the video, let's start the story. Naruto's luck turned out for the better. Again. For the moment Jiraiya, Tenten, and himself left the restaurant Higurashi Tenten, Uzumaki Naruto, the teens jumped slightly when they heard their names. The figure approached them, she was dressed almost identically to Tenten, aside from the fact it was all black, and there were two sword hilts poking over her shoulders, and on her face was a full-on mask with some kind of filters. Finally, to finish off her attire was a big full-length coat. Abura Akiri, at your service. Akiri-san, why is it that you're on our team? Not that this isn't unexpected. Asked Naruto curiously. Jiraiya-sama pulled me from the reserves. Said something about being able to help with rogue teammates, and the like. Akiri said. Uchiha Sasuke almost killed me when I tried to bring him back. My other teammate is less than useful. Tenten's with me because Jiraiya-sensei is able to teach her a few things. Naruto replied. Akiri bowed her head slightly. My apologies to hear that. Shall we go for a drink and talk about our strengths and weaknesses? That sounds good, Naruto-kun. Tenten said. Naruto realized it was not a question. Brilliant idea. Soon enough Akiri led them to a bar known as the Crossed Kunai. It was one of the more popular bars in Konoha that was tailored to shinobi. Shinobi tended to come here with their teams, especially after they had just got some downtime. Due to the shorter than normal lifespan, shinobi tended to party quite crazily. It wasn't unknown for some shinobi turned civilians to open a string of stores together. For instance, the Crossed Kunai was in a string of stores comprising 3 Korean, 2 Japanese, and a Chinese takeaway, with 24/7 market all within 40 paces of it and some accommodation not far beyond that. It also was located near part of the clan district. So it wasn't unusual to see clan shinobi milling around. Surprisingly, the Aburam family tended to frequent this particular drinking spot. So, as a result, any music that played tended to be on the classical jazz side of things opposed to the rock and harder music in some other pubs. Akiri nodded and a couple of shinobi nodded back. Surprisingly, no one commented or looked at Naruto with a bad look. Soon enough they were sequestered in a booth. Akiri started. I'm Aburam Akiri, I am a water-earth element and I use the insects of the Aburam clan alongside my twin sword usage and I am a close combat specialist. Tenten nodded. I'm Higurashi Tenten, element type unknown, and I am a long-range support fighter. I used to be a part of Team 9 or Team Guy. Naruto paused. Uzumaki Naruto, unknown, close combat specialist, chakra monster, and the team's target dummy. Akiri looked at his target dummy. Need to practice, I'll help. I'll show you when we meet for training. He explained. Akiri tipped her pint back. Let's go right now. Team 66 left the pub and after picking up takeout and being observed by Jiraiya under his invisibility watched as Naruto surprised Akiri by spawning close to 2000 clones straight away. Akiri looked surprised. You can make all of those. Are you familiar with what that can actually do? Naruto nodded yep. Getting the memories back from when they dispel I didn't realize until I'd been hit by several Katen. I could have done with a clone being hit by that assassination of Kakashi. Jiraiya grinned and he materialized. The three stopped their late-night training. Jiraiya-sensei. They called. Jiraiya grinned at them, he loved that title, perhaps more than Jiraiya-sama and Densetsu no Sannin. Jiraiya strode over. You three are my pupils. You are more importantly part of a legacy. Now for the most important thing, the three of you are important for helping each other's improvement. Akiri and Tenten nodded. We're senior genin, we've been on the force longer. Jiraiya nodded and smirked. That's the ticket. Now Naruto has instructions set out for him, these have been signed and sealed in blood and chakra the moment he was born. At some point I will be taking Naruto for personal training. But for now, we need to improve your skill sets. Akiri grinned. I can teach them how to wield tantos and other blades. I can increase their and other weapon training. Nothing exceptional, but they won't be useless with most weapons. Tenten chipped in. I can be a test target. Sorry guys. Naruto said looking dejected. Jiraiya made his way over to his godson and slung his arm around his shoulder. Work well with each other and improve each other and I'll deal with the rest. Naruto, tomorrow I'll begin teaching you Fuinjutsu. Akiri, you'll be teaching Naruto how to wield a tanto. Naruto, you'll be helping Tenten and Akiri with shadow clones. Sannin explained. Kakashi sighed. He looked at the 2 empty bottles and empty takeout trays in his apartment. In front of him was a small photo album and it were 25 photos. All of them were extremely significant. The radio played idly in the background as he sprawled out on his sofa. On top of that, he was also deep in thought. He was thinking where he had gone so wrong. He was a genius, but being a genius didn't equate to being a decent sensei. Kakashi Haddock, child of the White Fang, Tsukumo Haddock, master of 1000 jutsu, sole surviving pupil of the 4th Hokage, space-time master had failed. He had failed Minato by not training Naruto effectively. However, he had orders from the council, written in such a way, as if a former shinobi had written them. What have I actually given to the village? He asked himself as he devoured another box of takeout and grabbed another bottle of sake. He was on leave for the next few days, so he was going to catch up on his reading and drinking. However, he was disturbed by the sound of a shout, a scream, and then the unmistakable sound of a slap. Kakashi opened his door and was down on the landing, alongside a tired-looking Kurenai and an exceptionally pissed-off Anko. Because in the apartment below him was a sheepish-looking Genma, wearing nothing but his pants, a Kunoichi Kakashi vaguely remembered being from the Decryption Corps, and a sobbing Shizune. "Shizune-san?" Kakashi asked, and everything froze. Shizune turned and pushed, slid by Anko, and literally ran into Kakashi. Shizune went to her only to see Kakashi. "Thanks." Kakashi eyes smiles at her. "No problem Shizune-san, now where are you going?" "Home to get horrendously drunk." The Hokage's assistant replied thickly. "I have sake upstairs and food, but if you insist, I'll walk with you." Kakashi said flatly. "Kakashi-san," you began Shizune. "Nonsense, Shizune-san. Yes, you are an incredibly talented and accomplished kunoichi. I am not dismissing that, but you are also incredibly important to the village by virtue of your role and teacher." Kakashi replied with an eye smile. Despite wearing a mask and having his headband off, he was still able to do it. Shizune nodded. "Thanks, Kakashi-san. Please call me Kakashi. Only if you call me Shizune." The pair had found themselves in Shizune's apartment just across from the Hokage's residence and protected by a 4-man team of Anbu as opposed to the 4-man Anbu squads on Hokage home defense. In all parts of the Shinobi Corps, there are missions that have the title Milk Run, torturously long or torturously boring. The most well-known one was the Milk Run mission of grabbing Tora the cat of Madame Shinji. It was a Milk Run mission, but it wasn't a pleasant one. 2 more examples were Hokage babysitting and council observing. These 2 missions just tended to be long, but they were fruitful because more often than not the reigning Hokage allowed for the 16 to enter the house to eat, rest, and even talk with the cage. Shizune and Kakashi entered her cozy apartment. She pulled out 2 bottles of sake and several boxes of takeout. Kakashi helped set the table and the 2 began to eat. Shizune then looked at Kakashi. "What's up with you?" Kakashi sighed and took a deep drink of sake just thinking. Very unhealthy thoughts. Shizune cocked her head, pulled on some oven mitts, and placed the warmed-up food on the table. "Please, explain." Kakashi sighed and then he began to explain, in vivid detail, how he had been given a 1 in a million chance to train a team. It wasn't any team, but it was the team that consisted of his friend's relative Sensei's son and a civilian that could become the next Tsunade. However, he'd thrown it all away and instead of concentrating on all 3 of his students equally he focused on the one he saw himself in. Shizune listened intently. Her eyes narrowed and she had the Cyclopean prodigy under her control by hitting the pressure points and manipulating the nerves in his right hand. Kakashi winced. "What do you suggest?" Shizune let go of Kakashi, but she kept eye contact with him. "I suggest that you make a copy of all that you have copied. Find out your remaining and former students' affinities and assist them," she said calmly as she moved closer to the Jonin. Kakashi nodded. "I can do that. Anything else?" "Be on time if they ask you to help them. Don't read those books so much, don't even think about suicide, and finally you can meet me tomorrow for dinner at 7 at the Cranky Ladle, and you're paying." Kakashi made a couple of fists as he worked the circulation. "Is that like a date?" Shizune's hard stare relaxed, she grinned and nodded yep. Kakashi stared at her with amazement, amusement, and sheer confusion etched into the part of the face she could see. "Shizune-chan, I'm not." He began only for the Hokage's students to cut him off. "The sort of person who dates. Known for serious relationships. Knows how to properly socialize with others. I know Kakashi-kun. However, I'm not most people who want to be with you. I'm the student of a cage, same as you. Our similarities are quite close. Or is it because you're scared?" she asked. A beautiful smirk appeared on her face as she said this. Kakashi looked at her and smiled at nope. "Now, food is getting cold and we have things to discuss." Shizune grinned. Little did she know that her little defiance in front of a living legend would change the village in ways to come. Team 66. The team arrived bright and early the next morning. Only Tenten seemed to be dealing with a hangover. Akiri appeared to be moving more sluggish than normal. Naruto just grinned at them. "How Jinchuriki, lucky little shit," Akiri said looking at the far too chirpy blonde. Tenten merely unfurled a scroll and handed Naruto 2 Tanto, 2 Wakizashi, and 2 Ninjato. "Pay bid." Naruto handed over the scroll containing money and then with it the 3 of them got to work. They arrived at 7:30 am, and by the time Jiraiya joined them at 8:45, grinning madly did they stop. Or rather Naruto stopped and then ducked as a Tanto narrowly missed his skull and one of his clones popped. "Sensei." "Aki." Jiraiya responded. "Sensei." Chirped Akiri. "Aki Aburam." "Mugamyasum." Jiraiya looked at them. "She's the daughter of my sole surviving pupil. Gaki is my godson. Now, my lovely little students from other shinobi, we have a mission. C rank. Extermination." The three nodded. "As you wish. When do we leave?" "Now." But that Team 66 dispersed, grabbed their packs, and headed towards the gates. Within 15 minutes they headed out. Aburam Akiri was in command. The man in charge is Kamitachi Ao, a former Konoha Genin cadet. 50 bandits under his command, find them, formulate your plan, and then I'll give the green light. Akiri looked at her subordinates. "Naruto-san, we are going to." She didn't finish her request, as Naruto summoned 30 clones, and all 30 of them transformed into various birds and animals that were quite natural for a lightly to moderately armed bandit camp on the outskirts of the forest. "Whilst Naruto-san does our scouting, Tenten, can you prepare the foundations of a camp? I want to evaluate our threat." "I have no doubt Naruto-san can, will, and has provided a perfect numerological analysis on our foes. Mine is a much more personal scan." This caused Jiraiya to look up from his field report. He preferred to write them in progress, whilst the events were fresh in his mind. It took 4 hours, but soon enough the majority of Naruto's clones dispelled, and the info imparted into Naruto's head. "Well, 60 bandits that I saw. Fairly regular foot patrols of 5 men, every 5 to 10 minutes, 2 groups. I saw the same." The information was incorrect. "I found roughly 60 bandits." "Naruto-san assumed more than what you saw. I would approximate that this is the bulk of their forces. However, what concerns me are the 6 that seem to be skilled in wielding their chakra." Naruto looked at Aburam. "Well, this is going to suck. What's the plan?" Akiri looked at the blonde. "I am open to suggestions. Page Bunshin to take out the patrols. Henge to form the patrols. We sneak in. Knife as many as we can, quietly without, and then hopefully take the others out using a mixture of clan techniques and dropping an armory of weapons on them. What does Tenten work?" Tenten sighed. "I'm pretty good with a henge. I'm pretty limited, as of right now. I could make a distraction with a bunch of Naruto's clones." Akiri held her hands up. "I have a solution, Naruto. You create a small horde of clones like you do in practice. Then Tenten is going to take 30 of those clones and wait for you to become the foot patrols. I will assist you in becoming the patrols, and then on my command, Tenten will cause a distraction, and then you Naruto are to take out the chakra users as quickly as possible. Then help us." "Jiraiya-sensei, can I ask you to be backup for Tenten?" "Why is that?" "I have no doubt that Tenten is an extremely gifted kunoichi, but her skill set is greatly hampered by her lack of despite her being, according to her fighting records, a genius at any fighting art involving weapons." Jiraiya nodded happily. "Due to the information being inaccurate, this mission could be justified as a B-ranked mission. Due to this, I will take command. We will proceed with your plan, Aburam Akiri, as it is something I would have devised." The genin nodded, and with that the plan went into motion. Naruto ditched his orange jumpsuit in favor of a black one, and with help from Akiri and Jiraiya, they dyed his blonde hair brown, and a seal covered up Naruto's marks on his face. Naruto smirked, and he blended into the forest. Akiri looked at Jiraiya. "I thought he was the class dope." "He is. They don't go into detail on stealth anymore. He's one of the best. Don't be surprised if the ghost comes a-calling." Sanin replied before he and Tenten vanished. The ghost were a division of shinobi who were the best at stealth missions. Not even the Anbu were as skilled as them, and the Anbu were amongst the elite. Akiri watched as Naruto summoned 9 clones, this time without the smoke. The teams of Naruto, waited in the tree line. One scouted forwards, channeled his chakra, and faintly, ever so faintly found the chakra of the security patrol. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, break, 4, 3, 2, now. 4 of the clones were amongst the security before they even knew what hit them. Kunai were buried neatly through eyes, mouths, throats, ankles, and some of the guards were even strangled. The 10 guards were dragged off into the clearing, and the Narutos into the guards, and proceeded to walk around the clearing. Akiri moved forwards, hidden jutsu. Hungry insects. In the space of 15 seconds the corpses were devoured. Tenten turned to her team of Naruto clones and Sensei ready. "We throw these runs like hell and repeat." These were sets of kunai all being attached gingerly with paper bomb seals. "Tenten, are you familiar with the technique of chakra sharing? It only works if one person has above average reserves or control, buckets of chakra, and are a shared element. I stole the scroll off Sasuke during one of his one-to-one training sessions with Kakashi." Jiraiya's eyes widened as he turned to the clone. "You're thinking of chakra transferring and the Tajuu Kage Bunshin Daihabuka Kunai no Jutsu?" Naruto nodded. Yeah, it'd cover the ground with minimum effort, allowing Prime to get into the village and be an asshole. Tenten nodded, she picked her tools and began to throw, as each one left her hands the tags began to sizzle. One of the clones stepped up and offered his hand, which Tenten took, and together they began to form the seals ox, dog, dragon, rat, dog, boar, snake, tiger. Naruto instructed. Mass exploding kunai no, Tenten murmured, she went to one knee, as her reserves decreased. Not as much as she thought, but she dispelled 4 of her 10 clone army. Jiraiya sighed, we'll talk to him about respectful and proper usage of oh who are we kidding, I told him to teach you the cage bunshin. Tenten chuckled, but it turned into a yelp of surprise as a mob of bandits charged out of the tree-line Fuinjutsu. Sansetsuken. Sealing art. 3-section staff. Jiraiya grinned and shifted his weight slowly, ready to intervene if he needed to. Bakiri heard the detonations go off and her bug clones dissolved moments before. Her twin Tanto were in her hands, as the 10 roughly armored, wielding either crude weapons or actual weapons, badly charged her. She effortlessly cut 2 down with no real effort, she buried one Tanto into the sternum of another. Blood erupted into and out of his mouth and she slowly sank to her knees. Parasitic devouring. All clans had small mutations. Some Hyuga could see further at the cost of clarity of chakra networks, some Yamanaka could possess puppets, and some Inyazuka even shifted seamlessly and seamlessly into a large wolf-like form. However, in the Aburam clan most of the clan had control over the parasitic insects, but a few, mainly her branch. Shibi's cousins on his mother's side were well known and feared for the rather cannibalistic insects. A breed that only until her had been locked away under Fuinjutsu keyed only to Shibi. It wasn't until Torin and his father Shikuro demonstrated unfathomable control, discipline, and control of the infamous Rinkechu did her insects become available to her. They were handy right now as they effortlessly devoured 5 of the corpses and 1 of the living, leaving 4 left. Earth style. Aburam style. Stalagmite eruption. This wasn't an Aburam exclusive move, but it was a modification of something a member of the Aburam clan had done a while back. It worked, the stalagmite entered the target from the base of the spine and protruded from the middle of the chest. At the bitch. Bakiri smirked erupt. The 4 stalagmites pulsed and ripped open with the force of a small bomb as a horde of insects tore out of them like blood from a wound. Naruto ducked smoothly out of the patrol and headed into the camp. The 2 guards on the gate said nothing aside from giving nods. During his observation of the camp, when shift switched they gave curt nods. Began one of the guards, something was up, and before he could say a thing to one of the guards, he buried a kunai into his throat. You know what to do. Tajuu Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Let's get this done. The horde of clones descended upon the camp. The thugs, both women and men, had no chance. They were stabbed in their beds, throats were slit, and in 2 cases, 2 of the clones knifed the ladies on the toilet they dispelled afterwards. Naruto felt sick. The imminent power of life and death, so many people had met the end of his clones and his own hands. His black suit is now turning a dull red from the killing. He quickly found the main tent and he spawned a clone. He was right to do so, as the clone entered it and was greeted by the fire style. Fire dragon jutsu. Fucking fire jutsu, and they're fucking dragons. Naruto jumped backwards as the 6 missing men appeared out of the tent. You. Naruto, and 3 of them shouted at each other. The Uchiha didn't kill you, okay? Hold still, you little rat bastard. One of them drew his katana and drove it straight down into Naruto. You idiot, I'm not here. The man's eyes widened as he saw that he had just stabbed his colleague. Naruto smirked, eyes flickered from blue to red, and he went to work. The screams brought the rest of Team Jiraiya crashing down on him faster than summoning. Food cart destroyer. Kakashi's eyes opened, the room was rather bright. He reached across, only to find the bed was much larger than the one in his apartment. He looked down, he was in a double bed, and a comfortable one. He looked to his left to find Shizune snuggled up next to him. He went to move. Don't you dare move. Kakashi grinned, he could get used to this. Naruto, the bandits were dead, the base had been leveled, and Naruto was on his hands and knees, body convulsing, as he continued throwing up. Not pleasant. Get it all up, you'll feel better. Besides, they had some good loot here. Jiraiya said. Naruto nodded and he stood up. Let's do this. I feel pathetic. Jiraiya moved and he had Naruto up in a tree. Why do you say that? He asked, a dangerous undertone in his voice. I felt like I was an unbloodied genin, now I can't keep my guts down. Jiraiya grinned sympathetically. I was much like you. The fact you were unbloodied is something remarkable, and shinobi should see it as a skill, but unfortunately it's seen as a weakness. For the last part, it proves you're human. The only advice I've got is, if you stop feeling bad about it, get out. Get out if you're able. Shinobi who can walk away are rare. Anyway, loot awaits us. Naruto walked away with a katana that nearly killed him and 3 wind scrolls. As they headed home, Naruto began writing his report. Contrary to his previous ones, he knew how to write a report due to the raging hard on the village had for his treacherous pyromaniac and spark plug attuned former teammate. Naruto swiftly doctored his report so it kept Sasuke in the good light. This time he had no expectations. This would be the first official report that would be true to everyone's involvement. Naruto-kun, you okay? Naruto turned to see Tenten falling into step next to him more or less killed and lost your stomach. Don't worry Lee, and I did. I saw your handiwork, nicely done. Very nicely done. Naruto snorted. I got sloppy, I didn't think. The moment I knew I'd been made I overran the place with clones. Caution went out the window. Jiraiya and Akiri nodded true, but the plan was for you to mimic the guards and wait for your team to come up. However, they were attacked. You improvised, the job was done. You're all fresh genin or freshish, plenty of time for improvement. Besides the three of you are my genin. My last team. My first team died, the second team died, but they were better than my first. You three won't suffer their mistakes. Team 66 is an oath. An oath of Jiraiya, the Gamma Sannin of the Densetsu no Sannin. Kakashi, Shizune, what happened? By now the pair were dressed and were sitting in her kitchen with breakfast and tea between the pair of them. Shizune grinned sheepishly at him. We slept together at Kakashi-kun. Where we go from here is up to you. Kakashi looked at her and he slowly opened up his Sharingan eye. If you'll have me. I'm yours. He said slowly. Shizune blushed. I'm yours. After a quick kiss, Shizune looked at his plans. I've got to pay my respects, transcribing, and 2 former pupils to track down. Still, dinner, and the ladle. Shizune nodded, Kakashi grinned, and he vanished in a plume of smoke. Kakashi popped his neck, he had cashed in one of his many sick days and had promptly rushed to his flat and returned to Shizune's where he sat himself down on her very comfy cushions and with Sharingan open began to transcribe the he had acquired. Team 66. The journey back to Konoha was uneventful. Naruto had managed to open up about his feelings on the mission. Don't get yourself down, it went fine. The last thing anyone is going to do is now debrief and hand in a report. Then sweet downtime. Jiraiya smirked, which will be spent training. I'm a big believer in downtime after B and A rank missions, but D and C ranked missions expect training. His new team nodded and they trudged through the streets of Konoha. Naruto looked around and for a moment he thought he noticed a flash of pink hair. He shrugged, Sakura was history. Kakashi, there was the sound of decompression in the fingers and Kakashi popped his neck. It had taken him nearly 5 hours, but a good solid 200 scrolls had been filled with. Each one had a name, rank, seals, and effects had been painfully transcribed. Shizune had organized them into the villages they had been copied from. Kakashi looked at her. Won't Tsunade-sama be annoyed at you for missing today? Shizune paled slightly. Yes, then she'll realize what I've done. Besides, she knows I needed this. Just then there was a knock on the door. Shizune opened it to find Tsunade standing outside, hands on her hips. Tsunade-sama. Tsunade grinned at her friend. What did I say about not being able to work? Send a cage bunch and sorry, bad evening that turned out alright in the end. Shizune replied with a faint blush. Tsunade looked at her and effortlessly breezed by her and entered the small accommodation and found Kakashi-san's vest. Well, what do we have here? Kakashi, stiffened Tsunade-sama. Tsunade looked at the bedraggled scarecrow jonin with mixed opinions. Here was arguably one of her best jonin, one known just on sight as one to approach with caution, gone horribly to seed, sitting in her old home back when Hashirama Jiji had been Hokage and her parents weren't home to look after her and the Waki. Hada Kakashi, just what do you think you're doing? Dear, Shizune-san had a rather loud falling out with another colleague and through sheer luck that I lived above the colleague in question, I walked her home. Sake, food, and discussions have been had between the pair of us. Tsunade nodded then she noticed the table writing down all of the knowledge you've acquired. Kakashi nodded to attempt to mend bridges. I fucked up Lady Tsunade. I fucked up royally. I should have trained all 3, except I trained the one with the most potential who happened to be most like me, he was undeserving. The ones I should have trained, I left to the wayside. Tsunade nodded yes you did. However, you've got a second chance. Don't mess this one up. Kakashi nodded and went to bow only to find himself being pulled over to the busty cage. I know about Shiranyu Gemma. Don't hurt Shizune for your own health. She's more important to me than anyone. Kakashi turned gray. Tsunade looked at her confidence. It was hard for Tsunade to accurately describe Shizune's role in her life, but it was more than just a link to her former lover. It had started out like that, but now, Tsunade couldn't bear to think of any time that Kato Shizune had not been by her side. She nodded and she quickly left. Hokage's office. She arrived in the office just as Team 66 walked in. Team 66, C-rank Bandit extermination mission successful. Team 66 was led by Aburame Akira under the overall command of Jiraiya-sensei and consisted of myself, Aburame Akira, Uzumaki Naruto, and Higurashi Tenten. Akira stated and began to give a succinct and clear version of events. Very good. I want the report tomorrow by midday. Team 66 nodded and left through the door, and Tsunade snorted as 4 flickers blurred across the compound and out into Konoha itself. Team 66. The 3 genin stopped on the rooftop of a building. Akira and Tenten with remarkable skill and ease, however Naruto had put too much power into the jump and had to roll, only to hit the ledge and nearly topple into the street. Mine? Get the reports over and done with, and then drink. Naruto asked. Sure, I mean, where is your residence? Tenten asked curiously. It does seem logical to get the reports done as soon as possible, Naruto. Though it puzzles me about why you want us to go out drinking again. Naruto's side seems to be the only avenue for me at this point in time. Some restaurants that we should go to, they're liable to tar you with the same brush as me. Also Akira-san, I need to brief you on an S-rank secret. Those words had barely left his mouth when Akira had a tanto to his throat. Why do you, a rookie genin, have access to S-rank information? Because it's my secret to begin with, Akira. You'd also realize that Tenten hasn't pulled her weapons on me. Akira stopped, her mask misting up. You're correct. My apologies, Naruto-san. Tenten-san, let us have this conversation away from prying eyes and ears. They nodded, and soon enough at varying points, one by one dropped it into the streets of Konoha. Naruto remained on the rooftops and entered his apartment through the roof. The kettle had just boiled when Tenten had escorted Akira to the front door and had pulsed her chakra through the door. Naruto pulled out the forms, and the 3 genin sat down with cups of tea, writing out the form and cross-referencing each other's reports at the several instances, showing with great detail the accuracy and level of teamwork provided. The forms, signed and sealed, were handed to Akira, who tenderly sealed them away into a scroll and tucked it away into the folds of her coat. Now, Naruto, you said something about an S-rank secret. Naruto sighed. Akira, have you heard of a Jinchuriki? No, well, only in reference to Uchiha Madara using the Kyuubi against Hashirama-sama. Naruto snorted. Anyway, there are 9 of them. Gaara, the Redeed who was the traitor, fought in the Konoha Crush. Anyway, he was one, a Jinchuriki. Hosts the one-tailed beast. Now, the Kyuubi attacked Konoha when? October 10th. Replied Akira. When's my birthday? Replied Naruto. October. Oh, my sincere apologies, Naruto-san, Akira said, placing her hand on top of his. I can't imagine how this has affected you, but I can sympathize with you. I want to show you something. Before Tenten and Naruto could stop her, Akira had pulled off her knee-length black coat, her battle armor, leaving her with her mask and a skin suit. Where you, Tenten began, but her words failed her. Asa. Akira stripped a skin suit to her waist, and they're located on her neck, above her heart, and right above the chakra nexus, located just off the diaphragm, where 3 miniature almost infested-looking wounds were black, almost pulsating scars. Akira redid the suit. Those marks are the original insertion points of my Kakechu. Most of the clan only have 1 or 2, but sometimes clansmen have more. I have 3, and by the time I hit 20 years of age I will possibly have as many as 5 currently. Myself and Torun are the only ones with 3 different coexisting insect colonies in our bodies, although Torun has 2 colonies of Rinkechu and 1 Kachu colony, making him one of the most effective assassins in the Aburame clan. Currently Shino-sama, the heir apparent of the clan, has 4 colonies. Yes, Naruto, Shino-sama is much stronger than he appears. Naruto nodded. Okay, what next? Akira looked at her subordinate's food, something salty and unhealthy, and then the crossed kunai. Naruto nodded. Sounds like a plan. With that he gulped his tea down, wincing slightly at the scalding sensation, and soon enough they headed out. Somewhere else in Konoha, Shizune had just got changed. She pulled on a pair of dark blue shinobi pants and a black top that was slightly short in the neck and revealed her shoulders, but more or less clung to the rest of her body. Shizune was not one who ogled herself in the mirror that often or at all. She looked at herself and she nodded. Off her desk she grabbed 2 kunai and some money. She wasn't expecting Kakashi to pay for the entire meal or all the drinks, but she did intend to pay for some of it. There was a knock on the door. Shizune opened it to find Kakashi standing there in black pants and a black muscle shirt. To her surprise, in his hands was a bouquet of flowers. Furthermore, fighting back a blush, Shizune realized that Kakashi seemed much more alert and attentive. Now to keep him like that whilst on duty. Kakashi watched as his date, definitely his date, invited him in and headed into the kitchen to put the flowers in a vase. Kakashi didn't show it, but he was nervous, so nervous. He wanted at one point to chicken out, but remembered who her teacher was. Hada Kakashi was many things, but a breaker of his word, he most certainly was not. Soon enough the duo left Shizune's house arm in arm and off to the ladle. It wasn't a place of eatery best known for the romantic atmosphere, but it did have rooms that were normally used for top secret missions and dealings within Konoha's shinobi corps, i.e. between two platoon commanders exchanging shift patterns. They were slightly cramped, but for Kakashi and Shizune it was an ideal place for a first date. The food was prepared by civilians who lived in the Akimichi estate. Konoha was built from a myriad of clan buildings and non-combatants. Each part of Konoha was under the protection of one of the clans. It didn't affect civilian lifestyle so much, and not really so much for shinobi, aside from those from the clan that financed the area getting preferential treatment. This particular restaurant was one that the Haddock clan owned. The Haddock family did not have much in terms of outright assets, but they had made a comfortable investment in and financing other projects. Their most common and consistent contribution to Konoha was the exceptional quality of their shinobi. Every Haddock shinobi had so far managed to enter the bingo book at a young age and were known for a calm analytical approach and either horrifying amounts of skill and chakra at their disposal like Haddock Tsukumo or an incredible mastery of a multitude like Kakashi. Rusty kunai. Naruto fell boneless on the bench and he let out a sigh. The tension in his body finally left him. Too easily the best team I've ever been on. Akira grinned. I'll drink that. Tenten went to drink, but she almost dropped her pint. She had tried to match her teammates drink for drink and had done reasonably well. Naruto looked at Akira, for although she had the help of her insects to help consume the alcohol, it was deemed his burden was by far the most superior thing for drinking. Akira, head home. He looked at Tenten, carrying her home. But that under close to 3 million or more eyes of the Aburam-backed pub, Naruto picked up Tenten getting her over his shoulder and headed out into the evening Konoha. Tenten groaned softly as she felt the wind on her face. Where am I? Over my shoulder, Tenten-chan. We kind of had a few, we entered a drinking contest, and well, being the super secret clone spamming monster that you are with massive amounts of chakra and a ridiculous A+ rank healing regeneration factor 1. Turn left here, at the end. Higurashi supplies. Naruto nodded and, as they drew level, the door opened Fuinjutsu. It allows me to enter upstairs, first door on the left. Soon enough Naruto and Tenten were in her room. Naruto, tenderly pulled the covers back, pulled her sandals off, and laid her on the bed. Naruto-kun, I'm drunk, but not completely so. Stay the night. The bed's big enough for the pair of us. Naruto stared at her. You sure? Tenten nodded, and Naruto saw 2 lumps of fabric appear. One from under her top and the other from her leg. She smirked at his discomfort. Nothing will happen without me wanting it to. Like that she was out like a light. Naruto sat on the edge of the bed, shook his head, and fell asleep, wondering what he had gotten himself into. Naruto found himself inside the sewer that happened to be the representation of his mindscape. More specifically, in front of the seal, and beyond that is the monstrous form of the Kyuubi no Kitsune. Kyuubi? Ninjin? What do you want? Naruto shrugged. You pulled me here. It was true, Jiraiya had been supplying Naruto with all sorts of Fuinjutsu texts, some from Iwa, Kumo, Kiri, Suna and Konoha, but the majority were from Yuzushiogakure no Sado, Naruto's mother's home village. Soon kid. Once we've got the clearance your training can truly begin. Jiraiya had told him one evening, over a bottle of sake and bowls of takeout on top of Naruto's apartment. They basically said the stronger the seal, the harder it was for the human to contact the Biju. The fox looked at his new container. Your skill is improving. Your puny skills are almost improving. But your skill with me is lacking, and always will. Naruto sighed. So you brought me here to gloat. Done, I'm gone. No, I brought you here to know why you do not practice with my freely given essence. Why? I saw what happened with Shukaku. Shukaku is weak. Weak and unstable, as a result of multiple reasons not including his own choices. Now beggin'. Tenten's room, don't move. Comfy, good heat source, stay put. Naruto looked and found Tenten with her duvet had covered the pair of them and had positioned herself so that she was using minimum duvet and maximum him. Naruto's neck cracked as he spied the alarm clock. It read 7:25. Tenten, you can explain to me exactly why I'm in your room, but right now we need to leave. We're late. That got Tenten moving. She got dressed so quickly, Naruto could have sworn she had a jumpsuit from Guy. Soon enough they clattered down the stairs and after snagging 2 bento boxes from the counter, one of them recorded the personnel in the house and they tore across Konoha heading for the training grounds. They arrived just as Jiraiya appeared. Jiraiya looked at the two and smirked knowingly. It reminded him too often of Minato and Tenten's father when they had spent the night with their respective lovers and had slept in. Good night you two. It doesn't matter, we're to train. You have 5 months because this will be the last time the 3 of you are going to be taking the Chunin exams as a team because afterwards I am going on a 3-year training trip with Naruto as ordered in the Yandame's will. Team 66 nodded and under Jiraiya's tutelage they began to work. The first thing they did was investigate Tenten and Naruto's elemental chakra. Tenten turned out to be lightning and fire. The piercing element just seemed to fit the precise and natural nature of a weapon mistress. The fire release was chalked up to being a byproduct of living in High no Kuni, known for its predominant fire-natured shinobi. Naruto in contrast had a wind and water affinity. Jiraiya snorted. He would have thought that due to the fox in his gut, there would have been a fire affinity in it as well. That was another thing for Jiraiya to teach Naruto, fire as well, although there seemed to be a much larger list than intended. Now, my chickadees Akira, you take Naruto and begin to teach him the basics of Suiton release. I'll teach Tenten the basics of Kaiten. Jiraiya instructed. Naruto created a small horde of clones and had them begin to pull water out of a leaf. Meanwhile, Tenten was rubbing two sticks to generate friction and trying to create a spark. Jiraiya sat on the logs near the middle of the training ground, notepad balanced delicately in front of him. Thoughts, surprisingly enough, not another Icha book, but rather something less smut and more adventure. That wasn't to say that smut would not be in it, but rather on the backseat. Jiraiya needed other genres to keep money flowing in after all. It was just one standalone Icha that had caused his rise to fame. They wanted more of the smut, and that caused the rise of the guise of Jiraiya, the harmless super pervert. Unsurprisingly, it was Tenten who completed the initial elemental training first. Smaller reserves normally meant better control. She was rewarded with 2 fires. Naruto managed to get the training done just before they finished for the day. He was no genius, but he was manipulating close to 500 clones to practice the leaf draining exercise. Eventually, over the 5 months and 4 more bandit extermination missions, Naruto had a grasp over his manipulation as he accidentally used an old Kiri style of training and ripped the water out of a bandit after one cut with his kunai. He received 2 scrolls, Teppadama, water style, gunshot, and water style water whip. They were the water versions of the Teppadama, a smaller more condensed version of the fireball, and great fireball, and a fire whip, made famous by Ichihime, a very dangerous kunoichi back when Jiraiya was a genin. She was one of the few shinobi that Danzo actually despised working with. She seemed to be able to predict every intended advance. Jiraiya paused. He would not be surprised if Danzo himself had organized and led the surprisingly successful prevention of her defecting as a nuke nin. He shrugged. He would about that later, especially if it was rumored that Suna and Konoha were organizing a twin Chunin exam. That would be too much of a prime opportunity, and Danzo was if anything an opportunist. Naruto, Tenten, and Akiri stood in one of the empty classrooms in the Konoha Academy. Amongst them were colleagues, tentative allies, and strangers. As Naruto looked around, he locked eyes with a man in his late teens, maybe his early 20s. The young man had tanned skin from exposure to the sun, gray hair, brown eyes, scars, and a vast array of scars, especially one across his throat. Tenten's breathing hit Naruto. Remember when we reinforced Gaara-sen's team? We saw Gaara training with him. Naruto nodded. He's Suna's version of Lee. Speaking of Lee, Naruto turned and found Lee and Niji with someone that Akiri recognized. That's my 5th cousin, Abiram Shin. He's unique. The strength of usage of the word with a capital letter. The younger members of Team 66 looked at their leader. He's very good with Kachu. If he can make it past the Chunin exams this time, this'll be the 5th time he's participated. Naruto nodded. One of his teammates bottled last time. So that's 1, the other 4. 2 were due to being overly cocky, I know. Shocking, a member of the stoic Abiram clan being cocky. True. First, I pressured our sensei into it. That was in grass. Second, we were literally fish in a barrel for 12 Kiri genin in Kiri. Third time I got my ribs pulverized to the point of a near liquid diet, and the last one Kabuto also. Cousin rude much? Shin asked with a grin on his face. Naruto and Tenten nodded, and they made small talk with the new Team 10. Naruto caught a shot of pink from the corner of his eye. It was Sakura. She was with Ino and Choji, however nothing could be said as Shikamaru and Asuna officials stood up. Everyone, welcome to the Chunin exams. Welcome to the Chunin exams. The first test was one to demonstrate the strength of the bonds of teamwork. Unlike Ibiki who probed them with the ability to think and cheat. This exam focused on the lengths a team would go for each other, and only Team 66 had received closest to full marks on the paper. The paper in itself was a deception, with the betrayal of Uchiha Sasuke and the dissolving of Team 7, the Konoha and Suna Council wanted to see how their potential Chunin teams were going to operate under pressure and the lengths they would go to look out for the team. After the tense 2-hour exam, Team 66 met up. Well done to those who passed. The next exam is a 5-day trial of skill and survival. It is a 3-day shinobi pace to Suna. You are to be collecting a scroll that says grain is weak, a desert is strong. Your job is to collect an entire scroll. Everyone not in your team is a foe. It officially starts tomorrow. At your kits. Akira said. Extra rations, water bottles, some food to go? Naruto asked. Food to go? Why? It's a 5-day exercise that officially starts tomorrow. We need to meet at the north gate. I'll scope it out and see if there's more shinobi than normal. I'll acquire us a scroll and we can set out ASAP or we get there at the stroke of midnight." The girls on his team nodded. "Has anyone told you that you're a very sharp individual, Naruto-kun?" Akira asked. Naruto looked at her as if he had been subjected to Iruka-sensei's big head no jutsu. "No, I don't think so." "Why?" "Because I don't think I know of anyone who would have thought about stealing a march on our foes." Hokage's office, Tsunade, the clan heads, and Shikamaru and Temari observed intently. They were listening to all of the genin teams that were organizing their plans. "Should be interesting." "No one's actually thought of that," Temari commented. "Let them have it," Tsunade said. That night, Team 66 met under the cover of darkness and they headed towards the north gate. However, Team 10 and Team 9 were doing the exact same thing. As were a few teams from Suna and the 2 from Rain. Age Bunshin, Naruto intoned, and 4 clones headed off, or rather 4 Naruto-identical clones, as Tenten, who had been learning chakra concealment techniques, had dispersed several animal shadow clones. Neji watches with his Byakugan. Naruto is using several shadow clones to get the guards out so we can swipe a scroll and get ahead. Is that not ethical and against? It is not. When Chunin are given missions which are to start in the morning, it is not unheard of for the Chunin team in question to start a mission in question at the earliest hours of the morning. It does not officially start until the morning. Last time I checked, midnight meant the next morning. Naruto hit the office quick and hard. There were 3 Jonin keeping an eye. They were restricting themselves to Chunin level just in case some idiots decided to fight. They knew the booth inside and out, to the point precisely how many critters and what sort of critters were supposed to be there during the seasonal year. Fortunately, Naruto had chosen squirrels. He had pranked the outboxes several times and knew the seasonal critter rota very much. However, they could not conceal chakra, much like actual Naruto, and thus the chakra was able to be detected. The Jonin were surprised when they detected chakra levels comparable to a Chunin and a Bunshin. Yep. Are we supposed? It's a feint. Tsunade-sama and Jiraiya-sama have made it clear that no shinobi in the forces has the skill, proficiency or gift towards the Kage Bunshin and the Henge. The Kage Bunshin, his skill rivals Nidame-sama, and with the Henge, he rivals the coyote-based clan that I think were wiped out in the early days of the first shinobi war. Ah, why did Akiru quickly closed his mouth and 2 squirrels made off with a scroll. The squirrel clones were much too quick for the praying teams, 9 and 10 of Konoha, along with 2 genin from a fresh Konoha genin team. There was a flurry of altercations, a few uses of the replacement, and a very annoyed brown cat, with the result being the military police, a Jounin team, and several noise complaints, with the end results being 4 more scrolls being stolen, and Team 66 making their move to sign out. Team 66, move out. I want us to have a cul-de-sac to catch some unfortunate teams. Akira ordered, and the moment midnight rolled around, 12 teens under the full moon night rushed for Suna. Team 66, we sleep like bats. Akira ordered Naruto, keep a perimeter up, and I'm going to regret this, order you to take enough caffeine and chakra pills to keep us safe. It was well documented from Uzumaki Kushina. Uzumaki's had an extremely potent reaction due to having large lakes worth of chakra and density. Amount and density of chakra influenced the sensitivity and effectiveness of the chakra pills. Caffeine pills were a mixture of their solid, liquid, and powder types mixed together and turned into a pill. Naruto was a shimmering mass. He nodded and soon enough clones appeared and they began to form a tight perimeter. They made good progress as no one had directly confronted them. Dynamic entry. Lee shouted as he launched himself out of the trees in front of them. Water style. Lee. How do I know it's you? Naruto said, hands forming a dot. That is such an unyouthful question, if I ever heard one. No, we found one of your clones. I zoomed ahead. Naruto. The blonde had just clutched the back of his destroyed Neji clone. Tenten pulled out a 3-section staff and readied herself. Naruto built chakra up, ready to use his modified suit in Tepidama. His technique, he realized, had been identical to Gaara's when he was succumbing to the Tanuki. He wondered how the redhead Jinchuriki was. Akira waited, and true enough, her cousin, Neji, and Lee had joined them at an even speed. Everyone is to be treated as enemy. Naturally, all teams gang up and then try to rig the tournament in their favor. We are suggesting at least between us a peace act. Neji explained. Non-aggression at least between us. With that, the 2 teams split up. It wasn't until lunchtime when they ran into trouble. Where Team 66 hand landed happened to be a well-known resting point for Konoha shinobi. 6 genin, all of whom were older Konoha nin, smirked. Pain. Kakakyu no jutsu. Ah shit. Kakakyu no jutsu. Shouted the 6 genin, and the fireballs rushed towards the ramshackle team. As Akira swore, Naruto smirked as his chakra built up and he rapidly ran through a set of unique seals, typically used in Suiten. Mizurappa. Water style. Wild water wave, Naruto went to spit, but it looked more like a concentrated removal of his stomach. The oversaturated water erupted upwards, slamming into the slowly merging fireball techniques, causing steam to erupt in the forest. Akira and Tenten were quick to capitalize on this. Jiraiya and Naruto had spared, and Jiraiya had him only use Suiton and Jiraiya to use Kaiten. Even though Naruto possessed the superior element, Jiraiya quickly proved that with enough skill, training, and hard work that the superior element could be defeated by the inferior. Jiraiya explained that during the Konoha crush, that Orochimaru had summoned the first and second Hokage, the third Hokage had pulled up several earth barriers, and the second Hokage had effortlessly cut through them with his Suiton techniques. The steam the two emitted had helped their training exercises. As the water wall and fireballs connected, Tenten had rushed forwards as Naruto chucked her bow staff. This one was technically done with swords, but Tenten knew she'd make do. She was amongst them, bow staff twirling, one and two of her comrades fell to the pure storm of her blows. Akira took out two, and her bugs had taken out another. There joined Naruto, who was blurring a few seals together feuding. Die atop a shuriken. Wind style. Great breakthrough shuriken. The shuriken picked up speed and whistled towards the remaining Konoha genin. Thankfully the technique only caused minor scratches, but enough of them to cause the surviving genin to surrender. Naruto smirked, rifled through his attackers' pockets, took everything including their clothes, and left them in precarious and promiscuous positions, with only one kunai for the six of them. They shouldn't have tried to kill us. Akira nodded true, although Naruto I do question why would. Naruto sighed I'm the living weapon of Konoha. We've had this discussion, now, as to why they attacked us. Probably because of me, and either something they suspect I did or know I did, and can't prove it. Furthermore, it wouldn't surprise me if other powers are using this exam as a means to fulfill their own agenda. Elsewhere, Uchiha-san, Hoshigaki-san, these two are another pair of our associates in our organization, and another subsequent pair. They are Jungu no Kakuzu and Yugakure no Haiden. Please try to cooperate. A Venus flytrap looking man explained. The Venus flytrap was disconcerting, as it was, but it didn't help that he was also seemingly missing half his body. Our thanks Setsu tell leader Sama, we shall endeavor to cooperate. Itachi stated bluntly, as the shark-appearing Kisame eyed the two. Bikuzu-san, you requested additional support. I asked for you because you have one thing on the Kyuubi Jinchuriki that we do not. That is information that I am most reluctant to pay for. But leader requires us to work together. Itachi nodded. Why, you two? We have heard of you naturally. The zombie began Kisame only to find the Kakuzu and by the throat, and Haiden was bringing his scythe around at Itachi. Enough. Haiden faltered, Itachi exploded into a murder of crows and reappeared behind Haiden. Kisame, apologize Kakazu-san, Haiden-san, I profusely apologize for my partner's lack of consideration when speaking to others. Kakazu nodded. We have heard that title before, it was unprofessional for us to act so impulsively. Itachi nodded the Kyuubi Jinchuriki is Uzumaki Naruto with that Itachi began to detail Naruto's strengths, weaknesses, and who he was with. However, as he was doing so, he discreetly summoned a crow. This crow summon was Itachi's summon to Jiraiya. The information Itachi sent to Jiraiya was infrequent, but when it had been received it acted on quickly. Or concealed, ready to be used at a moment's notice. So far Itachi has managed to uncover a lot of information. Incoming Suna, Kiri, and Taki small reserves. Genin probably. Kakuzu rumbled. Genin exams maybe our Jinchuriki is here. Kisame said, as Haiden began to salivate and began to murmur fervently to Jashin. Itachi looked at his companions the more powerful you are, means you're more insane or detached from reality, just how detached are we? Somewhere, lightning crackled and ozone flared which heralded several screams as three well monsters charged a teen. This effortless and economical movement had heralded the end of the exercise. Very good Sasuke-kun hissed Orochimaru, who stood in the shadows as the Uchiha left Orochimaru cackled. You are going to be such a useful vessel. Team 66. They had the scrolls and they were nearly flat out sprinting for the border. Unfortunately, they had no sensors so they did not have any idea of where any of their opposition were. The only thing they knew, they had to be amongst the Suna teams upon hitting the desert. Similarly to Konoha talking to the trees the moment they left Konoha, Suna should hypothetically rip them apart. Naruto, think you can get us into Suna? Naruto nodded curtly, the pills still rushing through his body high. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Two clones appeared, the two Kunoichi climbed on, and they were soon nigh on invisible blurs as they rushed through the forest. As the trees gradually became thinner and beach-like, Naruto found himself rushing towards the unrelenting desert. Wait, Naruto, it's the afternoon, it is most unwise for us to cross now. It is the heat of the day, temperatures will be close to unbearable. Other teams, as opposed to Team 66, who were amongst the first of the Konoha teams to make it to the desert. Unfortunately, they had been slightly slower off the mark as Team 2 of Suna or rather Team Shira had become a virtual wrecking ball. Ah, Shira and his team. This is surprising. You, Shira, have a bounty on your head. A deep voice whispered, but it was laced with killing intent and came across as a rumble. Shira turned and standing in front of the sick Tsunade was one figure. Shira couldn't make out much about him other than he appeared to be alone and appeared to be wearing a cloak of red clouds on black. You are. I am Jyongu no Kakazu, now let me see if your bounty is worth collecting. Team Niji, someone is ahead of us. Niji called, and, as they dropped from the tree they were hit by a colossal amount of killing intent as two figures appeared, one of them had already been present, but the other seemed to effortlessly appear from the earth, as if it was like water. Uchiha Itachi. Niji stated, and he turned to Itachi's accomplice. Where are my manners, the tailless-tailed beast, scourge of Kurigakure no Sado, Hoshigaki Kisum said, as he gave a textbook courtly bow. The Konoha shinobi gulped. As the undergrowth exploded. Itachi-san. Kisum-san. Look what I found. In the newcomer's arms was the mint green-haired girl from Taki. Niji's team had been ordered to look after the Taki team until the training exams and knew that whilst not exactly strong, they weren't pushovers. Where is Uzumaki Naruto? Asked Itachi. Niji activated his, Lee dropped into a Goken stance and Aburam readied his insects. We won't tell you. Kisum, I am interested in their potential. Don't kill them, but apart from that have fun. Itachi, there was a reason Leader Sama put us together. Thanks for watching my video, leave a like if you enjoyed my video and also do consider subscribing to my channel for more awesome content. See you next time, till then sayonara.